Okay, hey everyone. Thanks for joining. For those who are new, I'm Alex Dunn, aka Suave Pirate. And today on stream, I think we're going to finally actually start building out our official sort of voicified, I guess, but voice powered keyboard and controller for gaming and stuff. So, sorry, I'm just kidding. Flown up on chat here. Cool. So, anyway, like I was saying, we're going to actually start working on our official project for our voice-powered keyboard and controller. So far we've done some really cool sort of prototyping. We've done some proofs of concepts for doing all sorts of different conversation channels, different ways of managing and playing different games, and using real-life keyboard functionality on my PC, at least that we're streaming on. We've built Alexa skills. We've built posture check. I'm already sitting up straight, Kenzie. We've built Alexa skills, Google Actions. We've built Twitch chat bots, web chat bots. We've built Slack bots. We've built Microsoft Teams bots. We've built Twitter bots and everything else that is possibly conversational. And most of those we've also turned into an actual means to control our computer, like remotely. So, hey R2, how's it going? So today, I feel like I want to actually start working on this project for real. So, we built a Call of Duty, specifically a Warzone-based voice controller that lets you, ask or give commands for like shooting, rolling Dark Souls, shooting, jumping, reloading, putting on armor, pinging, opening the map, stuff like that, like very basic voice commands over all these different conversation channels. So you could use the Alexa skill for it. You could say, Alexa, tell Warzone controller to jump, and you would actually see me jump. And then we also built some fun Twitch bots to do the same. But we then moved into another type of game for Dark Souls to sort of prove that concept still makes sense. And now I want to actually start building it for real to let other people use it. So, and make it all customizable, do it in any game, do all sorts of stuff. Even outside of games, use your own software, build your own macros, and do it without having to write any code. So, I've been thinking about names. I figured we'd give it the name Suave Keys to sort of match the Suave streams and Suave Pirate mantra that we have going on. It's all suave up in here. So, what we're going to do is, today, we're going to actually architect it. The project for real at scale, and I think it's going to be a really useful thing to go through, especially for those of you who have not architected production software at this level, to learn how we go from like that prototyping stage where like I got to write code that only worked on my machine and I didn't care about anyone else's machine, and will actually work everywhere else where people can actually plug it in. I still have some stuff I need to figure out around actually scaling the hardware. Hopefully someone eventually will be able to help me with that, and I can learn how to actually talk to manufacturers and produce Arduino-driven custom hardware at scale, but we'll get there when we get there. But today, let's start with the architecture diagram. So normally, we start with paint, and maybe we'll do that anyway. So I do it mostly because it's hilarious, but we actually draw stuff out with paint. So let's do this. Our original controller design, like what we did for our Dark Souls controller, what we did for our Call of Duty controller, and everything else basically ran through this type of diagram where we had the different conversational outlets. So this was like chat as I'm typing with my mouse. And we had like Alexa. And we had Google. We had our custom Android app, which was sick. We're definitely going to be looking into more of that. Those all sent requests to an API. Which then forwarded a request to our client. That's our app that was running on my desktop. And that would then go to send over serial to Arduino. I feel like I've drawn this diagram like 10 different times, because every time we start one of these projects, I draw it out. And then that would send keyboard commands back. So that would just do keys back to our computer. Right, so if I wrote or spoke shoot from Alexa or from you guys from chat, that would go to our API. Our API would interpret, hey, the shoot intent, let's send that over to the client. The client would go, hey, the shoot intent, send that over to Arduino, and Arduino would be like, shoot intent, that's click, or that's 9, or whatever we macroed. Same thing with everything else. So like even in Dark Souls, where we did a lot of macros around like quitting, that was a great one. In Dark Souls, when you want to quickly quit the game, there's like a whole sequence you go through. I usually play with controllers, so that's why I'm kind of doing these weird finger motions. But you normally like quit with a controller, and it's like pause, left, A, and it's like quickly quit while you're falling off an edge before you die. And we automated that by saying quit, and that would say quit, and then that would say quit to the client. And then on the Arduino side, we macroed and said like, okay, we got quit, so let's do like, these 10 commands with these specific gaps in between. So when we talk about scaling these, right, this was built just for me. We need to scale a few different things. We hit scale here to some extent. We had many different clients, or let's say channels. We'll separate it that way, channels. We had our single API. That's still going to be true. We had one client. So this we need to scale. I'm just going to put a plus plus. We had one Arduino board. This we need to scale. And each of these pieces needs to actually scale individually. And also, in some regards, the API needs to scale. So we'll do little tiny pluses. So what I want to do is actually build a real architecture diagram that's going to represent this project. But our goal for this whole thing is to be able to let any person who buys a Suave Key or is given, I guess, a Suave Key hardware to plug in. They plug it into their computer, or they plug it into their Xbox, or they plug it in wherever. They can configure it to say, like, hey, if I say shoot, then it should shoot. They sign in and they authenticate, so we know who they are when they gave those commands, or they gave those customizations for their macros or commands or whatever. So we need to know who that user is, which is how we're going to actually scale this relationship between our API and our client, because now we need so many. We also need to know who they are when they're giving the command, so we know what's custom and what they're allowed to do. So some things that I want to be able to support here is I want to be able to not just play games, but I want to be able to say like type blah blah blah, and I want to be able to say press blah blah blah. And these are like the start, the basics. If I say type hello world, I want to see hello world in text pop up on my computer. If I say press space, I should see a space. If I say press 4, I should see the number 4 pop up. This is also where I want to get into custom commands of press custom. This would be like press jump or tap jump, like all these different sort of variations. And jump is what I need to actually check against someone's customization and go from there. So we need to keep track of users. We need to keep track of preferences for those users. And I also want to keep track of preferences per game/software. So as I'm actually typing in Visual Studio or Android Studio or Visual Studio Code or wherever, whatever IDE I use, I'm only saying that because that's the most common piece of software I use is text editors and such. I want to be able to have custom voice commands I can give when I'm using that and be able to run it from there. I also might want to be able to detect what they're running and run it from there. But these are like the foundations of it, to say type X, and then press completely custom commands that are different, or run command or whatever, and make those actually execute different things in the end. So back to our paint. That means we need to allow the API to actually do a bit more, understand the user. We need to make the user we need to make the API understand who the user is against its own records when it's coming from any of these platforms. And we need to understand who the user is when they're on the client, which means we're going to have authentication and authorization all over the place. So what I want to do is actually do this like a real architecture diagram, how I do in real life, and I build real products, like we do at Voicify, like I've done in the past with mobile apps, and other systems architectures and cloud architectures, and actually break down all the components and their relationships. Personally, I like to use Draw.io or Diagrams.net. I still don't know which one is the right name. You can either download the desktop app. This is my first time using the desktop app. I usually just do it in the browser. Or you can go to Draw.io and do it from there. Now, this has tons of cool diagrams. There's actually some that even have, like, if I remember right, like cloud. Like I can even get like an Azure specific one or an AWS specific one that has like key indicators for the services and stuff that we're going to use. This looks like Azure. These look like AWS. And I want an Azure specific one, so maybe that'll work. If not, maybe we need something else. All these hexagons make me think it's either Kubernetes or Xamarin stuff going on, but it's all GCP. Or it could be generic, which might be the move, but I can't even see these. Okay. I can't even read what these are. This feels like a generic flowchart with some grouping stuff, so let's just say create and see what it gives us. Alright, yeah, so we've got whatever, cloud, network, stuff like that. I really just wanted to make sure I had the right icon palette to choose from when I start diagramming stuff. But let's see. Oh, these are all IBM. Oh, that's unfortunate. I don't want IBM. I want Azure because I'm going to be using Azure for this in particular. Sorry, we'll do one more and then we'll give up and just do a generic one. This one looks like Azure stuff, which is at least closer, but not really. Doesn't really need to be specific to Azure because in theory it should be able to be built anywhere. But all right, so we're going to give it a title. This is Suave Keys Architecture Diagram. And now we've got all of these Azure components to choose from and all of their cool icons and stuff. Let's see, we've got compute services. We've got IoT stuff, mixed reality stuff. We got all sorts of stuff in here. Oh, there's even a subgroup down here. Oh my gosh. Alright. I love the cool Azure colors, but we're just going to like bomb this stuff away. It doesn't need to be this complex. Is this all grouped? Can I ungroup you? Oh, that's just a square. Alright, we're going to start from scratch. So let's add a general shape here. I want a rounded rectangle to put all this beautiful, beautiful stuff in. So there's basically two ends to this architecture. There's the channels like we were just talking about, and then there are the client, which is in the end the UWP stuff, and eventually one of these little guys, Arduino, and hopefully something custom in the end that's built on Arduino. So let's get those sort of set up. So we've got our actual clients, which is just going to be I think to start, just a box that I'm going to put around some stuff, and we'll label it clients, and we'll make sure that the label is underneath, if I can remember how to do that. Bottom. There's like a whole, oh, I need to get outside that. Where are you? Text. There we go, bottom or top is fine. And now we can adjust the style. So I want this to be filled with some generic blue. That feels right. That feels Azure-y. And we'll give it a border of 4 pixels. Cool. So this is our clients. It's beautiful. And we've got basically n number of channels here. I know we probably won't be able to find anything for Alexa, but maybe we can find like a cognitive services, AI and ML. That feels right. All right, so we've got all these conversational channels. Let's just say this one's Alexa. If we duplicate this, we'll have Google Assistant. Polaroid. Yeah, thanks. It's me. I am the Suave Streams. Hey Dan, how's it going, by the way? Alright, did I copy that right? No, I did not. Okay, we got Google Assistant. We're going to get this to work with Bixby. We're going to get this to work... Oh, and I just woke up Bixby on my phone. We're going to get this to work with our own virtual assistant. And we'll get this to... Come on. We'll get this to work with N channel, any other channel, right? We'll call it that. So these are all the outlets we have for actually talking to this platform and actually executing commands and doing the things we want to do. Alexa, Google Assistant, Bixby, Custom Assistant, N channel. I mean, we've got like Siri and Cortana over here. We can go wild, and those will all find themselves within N channel. We then need to talk to our API, which is going to be an app service, which I think has a different icon now than Azure website, but that's fine. We'll give it its own thing. And this is going to be the Suave Keys API. We're going to make it nice and big because it's a big old API. And basically, each one of these, oh, give me that. Let's center that then. Each one of these channels is going to send requests over HTTPS to the Suave Keys API. Now, the API is really just a gateway in front of all of our business logic and data logic and everything else, in which case we're going to want to use a database for user records, preferences, all that stuff. So we'll have this little ancillary database. I'm probably going to use Postgres just because it's sort of my preference. We'll say Postgres, DB, and this is going to have a two-way relationship between... Can I set the style here? Give me the two arrows. Boom. Two different arrows. It's beautiful. Two-way relationship between our API. So our API is going to be able to communicate to our Postgres database, keep track of preferences, keep track of the user, and everything else. Our API is then going to send information to our client. Actually, you know, I don't even necessarily want to use Windows, because in theory, that client should be able to be anything. Any actual device should be able to listen to it. And I'm wondering where I can just get, where can I just get computer and or phone? Here we go. That'll do. So I want to say, oh, that's way bigger than I wanted. Boom. Desktop clients. And I want to be able to have mobile clients too. We got a mobile one over here. That looks mobily. Looks arguably bigger than the desktop ones. Mobile clients. So far, like in our POCs, we've really only done desktop stuff because we've been doing it to show in like desktop games. But in theory, the same thing should actually be able to work here as well. All right, so let's do this. We're gonna do a little guy there, a little one there, and these are gonna be WebSocket requests. WebSocket socket. Now from desktop clients, we can actually talk to our Android, our Arduino, and actually execute commands that then come back. So let's do that. We've got something for an Arduino here. Give me IoT. I thought I saw IoT in here somewhere. What did we miss? What did we miss? Internet of Things. It's just like a whole thing. Do we have like a microcontroller? Like, do we have that? I just want like a little board looking icon. Mobile services. Intune. Oh, see, that's app services. That's what it should have been. Give me something that looks like a microchip or a microboard. Microcontroller board, that's the word. Not identity. Although this is going to kind of relate. Where something that looks like a freaking piece of hardware. No, not that. Come on. Maybe there's more shapes we can grab. Is there an Arduino one? Because that would be sick. Other. Android, that would be lovely. We get some Android stuff up in here. Ugh, gross. I feel like I'm spending so much time looking for just the right icon, but I do want this to actually be exported and kind of be the face of it, so it matters to me, okay? Compute, we're getting closer. Open them all up. Ooh, I guess I could actually throw the... You are gone. We now get a Postgres database for real. General. None of you look like actual hardware. This is close. I mean, like, event grid is technically useful here. I don't want digital twins. I don't want to use an icon that's used for something else. Something. Give me... I might just end up using a square here if I can't find it. I could have sworn I've seen something like this before, though. Alright. We're over it. We're going to just use a square and be like, this is our controller. Controller. What I want to do is have another box here for the actual operating system. So we'll say OS. And obviously these communicate back and forth because it's an app on that OS. There it is. And now, come on, these communicate back and forth. Or I should say one way, probably. Let's see. That left side, or right side, none. Cool. But our desktop client actually specifically sends requests over to this. And technically they both do, but this is serial input. And then this is keyboard / mouse / controller output, and we're gonna have to just give it space to breathe here. Okay, can we get these to line up, please? That's gonna drive me insane. Come on. Okay, whatever. Okay, so the gist of it, we've got all of these conversational channels, and I meant to call these channels. Those handle sending requests to the API. And this technically should be two-way. Ooh, we've got some serious thunderstorms going on here. If I lose power, I'm sorry. Okay, so over HTTPS, we send requests from all these channels to our API. Our API will handle it. Technically, maybe we need to expand this. Technically, we're going to have Voicify sit in between to handle all the conversational routing. So I'm going to move all this stuff down. Oop. All these fun little clients, our little API. How is that right? What? All right, we're going to redraw these arrows. Wow, how hard was that? Boom. And you too. Web sockets. Sockers. Come on. Web sockets. Now, this is technically going to break because we're going to have Voicify live in between. We're going to make a nice little circle here. And this is Voicify in all of its glory. Hey, thanks for the subscription, Kenzie. It's only about time. I think you actually gifted someone else a subscription before you actually subscribed. We don't have weather here besides nice and too damn hot. Oh yeah, that's right, Dan. You're in Texas, right? What area of Texas are you in? Because I feel like the climate in Texas in general is just like completely different. Posture check. Sorry. Okay. We've got HTTP requests going to Voicify, and then Voicify is going to send HTTP requests here. So the cool thing is, like, instead of having to worry about supporting all these... Oh, that's right, you're in San Diego. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you actually have really nice weather all the time. I don't even know about too damn hot. That's right, okay. Hey, an anonymous cheer. Thanks for the 100 bits. Actually, a random cheers. Love it. Okay, let's see. I need to make sure these are actually pointing in both directions. Style, arrows. We got a right side now. So in our previous examples of doing like the Warzone controller and the Dark Souls controller and all that stuff, we basically had to handle like a whole bunch of like the raw request types from each of these different channels that we supported in our API. I'm actually going to put Voicify in the middle here because I'm going to build it on Voicify simply so I don't have to deal with all that stuff because I already did it during my day job to have Voicify do it for me. So we're going to do that. and let Voicify basically just send webhook requests to our API. So our API for Suave Keys really just has to worry about what the underlying intent was. Doesn't care what platform it came from. Checking the user record stuff, sending the requests over WebSocket to the end clients and stuff like that. And then the rest of it's sort of handled from there. Looks like we need to give a little breathing room here. Also, my poor dog is freaking out because I said the word thunder. I'm sorry, buddy. You're okay. Alright, so this is the gist of it. It's actually simpler than I thought in my head, so that's cool. Let's save. I'm going to save this. We'll just say Suave Keys diagram. And we can reference this later as well. So just to sort of recap what we have here, basically each channel we want to support conversationally is going to send requests to our app built on Voicify. Our app on Voicify is going to send webhook requests over to our API that we're going to custom develop in .NET. We're going to throw it in Azure. We're going to then talk to Postgres for handling our user records, authentication. We'll do it all in EF Core and identity and all that to save me some effort. And then that API is also going to send WebSocket requests over to the desktop clients, which then will actually handle whatever they need to from there. So if we build an Android app that should actually be able to handle those requests, then it can do typing or whatever other commands with those. But if we do it to the desktop client, then we're going to be sending serial input over to an actual controller. Whoops. We're going to be sending serial input over to the controller, which is an Arduino microcontroller, which is then going to send information over USB back to the operating system. And then this is basically the end, right? Like this is where like, hey, the thing happened. So this is our actual system architecture. The flow makes sense. So, I mean, I feel like we basically are just about ready to get started here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm really missing before we just basically dig into it. So the way I sort of want to go about it, we've already prototyped a lot of stuff. But steps I want to take here. 1, set up app in Voicify. 2, deploy to Alexa, Google Assistant, and chatbots first. 3, build, or let's say validate conversational aspects. 4, build webhook for single user. 5, update API to handle user records and authentication. 6, we're going to, after we handle authentication, we need to set up account linking for our users in channels. 7, we want to build client apps with auth. 8, build Arduino controller. Okay, fine. I know I look sweaty. It's super humid here, but I'm not sweating too much. That I'm not staying hydrated. Build Arduino. I don't even know what you call it. What is it? Sketch, right? Sketch to handle in I/O from clients. 9. Learn how to actually manufacture hardware to Arduino spec and scale. Because right now, even if we set it up with accounts, you can only really run it if you have a Leonardo. So we just need to figure out how to actually like make the hardware for this stuff. And that's it. So we're gonna keep this. Dan's sick of watching me already. I'll have a bio break soon enough. I always have to have at least 2. Okay. That's the plan. So let's go set up our app. And then like somewhere in between here it's going to be like actually make things look pretty and like learn how to customize stuff and all that. So this is like the plan in my head, at least a little bit more on paper, but I think there's going to be more stuff that we come across. Like we're not even talking about like macro customization, all the actual inner functions of the client and those preferences and stuff like that. But I don't care. Either way, let's go set up the app. So we've got our Suave Streams org in Voicify, and I'm just going to create a new app. We'll call it Suave Keys. Because I feel like that's a pretty good invocation name to say, like, Alexa, tell Suave Keys to press space. And it's short. It's 2 syllables. I think, right? Suave, yeah, it's 2 syllables, which is nice for still having 2 words. It's in line with the stream brand and all that good stuff too. But okay, short description lets you give commands that will execute keyboard controller functionality on your PC, Android phone, iPhone, and more. And because I'm lazy and don't need to worry about it now, it's getting the same thing. And I'm going to start with sample content. So in Voicify, we basically start by actually building out like the conversation structure, our responses, our inputs, our outputs, and everything else first. And then I guess like not first, but like it's how I like to do it first anyway. And then we're going to deploy it to all those different channels. So we start with sample content. I'm just going to rename this to general responses, and this is where we get some pre-built stuff for like our welcome message, fallback, exit. I'm going to delete this sample one because I know how to build questions and answers. I'm not new at this. I built the damn thing. Okay, welcome messages. This is what we tell our users if they do what's called explicit invocation. So that would be if the user, if it's deployed to Alexa, for example, would say open Suave Keys, not tell Suave Keys to X. So with explicit invocation, we always get our welcome message, which we can control now what our response is going to be. So we can say, welcome to Suave Keys. You can give commands like press spacebar or type hello world. And then we can also do things like attach media if we want. We might get to that later if we actually build some icons and everything else. But then we choose the follow-up. And this is basically where we control how we go from this point in the conversation to like the next things. And there's basically 3 options. We've got default, which for a welcome message is just hope that they say something our app can handle. We have suggest more content, which lets us build these reusable ones where we can add more language to the output speech. So this could be, for example, if I wanted to take this like second part of the sentence, I could like throw all this down there as the follow-up language. And we can also add hints. So if we have like a screen-based device like an Echo Show or Fire TV or something like that, we can say like on the device, tell it to say like tell Alexa press space or type hello world, whatever we want to do there. And on Google they're tappable chips, which could be really cool. Maybe we'll get to like that sort of cleaner functionality later. Targeted responses let us do the same thing, except that we also, instead of being open-ended and just saying like here's vaguely what I want you to do, we can actually start to build rules around it. So we choose the expected responses, which are just other conversation items. So that could be like another question and answer or a latest message or like a command or something like that. And we can choose the set of them that we want to be allowed, and then we can also like enforce them, which means like if you say something that's not one of these ones, then shame on you, and I'll give you a fallback message that keeps you on the right path, stuff like that. But for now, I'm just going to use the default here. And fallback is what happens when someone says something that your app doesn't understand. So we'll just say default fallback. So we'll say like, sounds like you said something I can't handle yet. And then basically the best thing to do here is to kind of push them back on the right path to understanding what they can do and how to do it. So this is like, if I tell the user to say, you know, you can say type X or press X, and they're like tap X, and we technically don't have that built in, they'd get the fallback message. So this is where we can be very clear with them about what they're supposed to do. And these are the conversation items that you can use contextually with those targeted responses if you want as well. So in this case, where we're building something where we're trying to just get them to type or say or give a command or something, we can say try giving a keyboard command like type hello world. I mean, we can give it some attitude. Like, learn how to use the keyboard. It feels pretty unwelcoming, considering we're trying to build software that's there for people who probably can't use keyboards very well on their own. Probably be pretty off-putting to give it some tune. But I definitely like giving it some personality. So, which reminds me, there's actually some really cool stuff we can do here beyond just giving it plain text. But let me type this out first, and I'll explain that. So try giving a keyboard command like type hello world, or press, I don't know, F to pay respects. So in this response, you might have noticed, it's not just like a regular text box. We got this like little thing down here that says like plain versus rich, and we've got this SSML editor. So you can do some really cool stuff with this. When you're working with a chat bot, this doesn't really apply as much, but when you're working with virtual assistants that synthesize voice, you can actually control the way they do it and what the output is. So, yeah, Dan. It was a hard move going from the mobile world to AI and having to lose the tune. Anyway, for SSML, you can do some really cool stuff. And basically, in Voicify, we have a visual editor for it. So, for example, let's just say, if I'm hearing this on Alexa and it's like sounds like you said something I can't handle, and like maybe she says try too quickly, I can like add an explicit pause here. If I put my cursor here and say pause and add like a short pause, there's like a visual element to it. So there's like a half-second pause now between these two sentences. Some other stuff we can do, which is really cool, is we can control the way that it's pronounced or the way that it's said. So for example, press F. If a virtual assistant says press F, that's pretty stupid. So I can explicitly say press F by saying say as characters. So it'll explicitly say the letter F. I can also do things like add emphasis. So like I can add some tude here. It's going to be more funny, but if I highlight this text, I can add some low pitch, and then I can also highlight this text within it and then add some emphasis or something. It's going to sound pretty silly, but I can almost like stack these different effects. But one of the things that I'm considering doing later is adding custom audio. So you can like just skip all the speech synthesis nonsense. Like if you don't want to have Alexa's voice, don't. You can just actually throw an audio file up here. We'll transcode it on the Voicify side for you automatically. Can Alexa say Alexa can say emojis, actually. That's a really good question. So Alexa can say emojis. It'll even display them. So let me show you this. So if I say burrito, right, we're gonna throw some burritos in here in the chat. I don't know if it'll show up in this. You should be able to hear this. Let me know. Let me turn this up a bit. Turn the desktop audio up. Yeah. Oh yeah. When I was first learning SSML and building this editor, we were like, all right, what other weird things we can do? Can we do? So that rendered, that was valid. So let me see if it'll play.
Sounds like you said something I can't handle yet. Try giving a keyboard command like type hello world or press F. Burrito, 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 burrito.
That was actually really funny. It said the last burrito like weirdly. Hold on. Let me play this again.
Burrito, burrito.
It's like burrito, burrito, burrito on the last one. Yeah, like you can say like you can throw some like fire emojis in there. That was always a fun one. I don't know what fire truck is. We got some fireworks. 4th of July just happened. We can do all that good stuff. Reload the preview on our side.
Sounds like you said something I can't handle yet.
You can even hear like the drag on the emphasis.
Try giving a keyboard command like type hello world or press F. Burrito, 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 fire, 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 fire engine, fireworks, sparkler, fireworks.
She sounds like the voice from Portal. Oh no. So this technically isn't Alexa's voice. This one is coming from Polly. If we do Google, because we can switch like who we're previewing against, we can do Cortana and Google's actual voices, and then they should be able to say it too.
Sounds like you said something I can't handle yet. Try giving a keyboard command like type hello world or press F. Burrito, 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 fire, 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 fire engine, firework, sparkler, firework.
I still find it funny that Siri, built by a company located in California, the city of Spanish name, cannot understand how to pronounce Spanish names in U.S. English. That's actually really funny. Oh, that reminds me. While we're here just like messing around with this stuff, if you do it on just Alexa, you can actually add some really funny things here. Like if I do voice name Brian, you can use the poly voices. At what point has technology gone too far? So this will technically show up in the rich editor as unsupported because it's not shared for all of the different platforms. But if we load it on Alexa in the preview, 20 years ago, we'll hear Brian's voice, and then it'll actually work on Alexa too.
Sounds like you said something I can't handle yet. Try giving a keyboard command like type hello world or press F. Berto, 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 fire, 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 fire engine, fireworks, sparkler, fireworks.
These are hilarious. So what I've learned from this is that British people, according to Amazon, don't know how to say burrito. Where was that? Hold on.
Fire, fire.
Too far back. We'll go back here.
Berto, 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 fire, 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 fire.
It's beautiful. So there's that. What this editor supports is anything that is supported across any of the platforms that Voicify supports, it'll show you here. The cost of burritos has gone up. Oh no. Gotta get those veggie burritos. So in the if you add something that's not supported, so for example, if I go back, let me add voice back. We'll do name Brian, I think is fine. Right, so this worked on Alexa. We just loaded it up. It's the same thing we were just playing.
Sounds.
But if I try to go switch to like Google, we also get some cool validation here. It's like voice is not valid for Google. You can't just use Amazon's voices on Google. But yeah, so there's some other cool stuff that Voicify also has too. That's like we have integrations with other tools like Read Speaker that can do custom voices. So if you wanted to like record your own voice, and well, you'd have to have like hours of it, but you can make your own synthetic voice and have that actually work across your entire app. And when you do that, then you can have your custom voice on all of your platforms, which is really cool. But anyway, for our fallback message, I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of all this nonsense. We'll leave the break because that was actually kind of nice, and we'll leave the say as characters, but we'll get rid of the emojis. We'll add these back because you can actually hear them spoken out by Alexa. But anyway, back to our fallback message. I want to hear myself. Maybe not you. Maybe you can pay someone with a radio voice to do it for you. I was gonna say every time I have to watch like one of my recordings back to like edit a clip or something, I was like, oh my god, I sound awful. How are any of you listening to me right now? I hate my own voice. But anyway, we've got a welcome message and a fallback message. We should edit our help message as well. Still thinks I'm talking to voice. So our help message is what happens if someone asks for help, or they say like, what am I supposed to do here? That runs through our help intent. And this is basically a good chance to kind of guide the user back to the right path. So almost like what we just did for our fallback message. We can say like, looks like you're looking for some help. Try giving some keyboard commands. Like type hello world or press F. And we'll just keep cycling those as our samples. As long as those work, we're cool. Last one of these general responses, we've got an exit message. This is what happens when the user leaves. So if I say like stop or cancel in the middle of that, then we can provide an exit message. Not all devices support exit messages. Some of them will just kick you out. And also some people's settings don't. So for example, if you use Alexa, the default setting, if you say exit, is actually what's called brief mode. Which basically just ends the session and it'll send a chime. It'll still send a request up to your skill or to Voicify in this case. But some people will still switch it back to not the brief mode, especially people in terms of what Alexa presented. People with certain disabilities that want like the clarification that something works instead of just like a chime or nothing. And those people are also the type of people we're trying to support with this experience. So to be extra helpful, we're going to make sure we have a good exit message. We can say, see you later, come back and use your voice-powered keyboard again. And we can save and close. Some other cool things here that we can do in the future. I'm not going to do it right now, but we can also add multiple language support. So I think this is a great use case where there's not too much actual spoken language we have to worry about other than our output responses. But outside of these four, it's mostly going to be kind of command driven than it is going to be like really conversational. So we could easily add support for like Spanish and French and Japanese and Chinese and all of the other languages that we want to support. I might just need some help from folks in the community to get translations, but like all we have to do that is basically go to our app settings here, and there's this language settings drop down, and we can add like all of the languages, and you can also see like which ones are supported by which platforms. So like Japanese is supported by Alexa, Google, and Bixby. But like Mexican Spanish is supported by those three versus like Spanish American is versus Spanish Spain versus Spanish Latin America, which is like what Google casts as the rest. It's like ES143 or something like that instead of like ESES or ESMX in terms of the locale code. But you can add all of these, and then all we'd have to do to actually get it to work on the content side is just create conversation items for each of those languages and just translate that output. When it comes to the input, we'll have to do that too, but it's not too bad because we're not going to be working with very many like custom intents or very custom language, which is cool. So just something to keep in mind. If you know people who speak multiple languages and are interested in this type of project, let me know, because it would be really easy on my side to be able to support it without just going. I mean, I can try with like Google Translate to translate some words in a way, but just something to keep in mind. If you or anyone you know is affected by mesothelioma, if you're can speak multiple languages, let me know, because I'd love to actually make sure this project is accessible to more people. So we've got our general responses, which means if we say help, we get our help message. When we say open Suave Keys, we get our welcome message. So let's see where that lands in our thing. We got our set up our Voicify app. Can I put emojis in here? Can I put a like checkbox here? Nope. Spanish to live in Guatemala and curse words were different than it's funny. Even I took like high school Spanish, and depending on like what teacher you had at my school, one of them taught you like very traditional Spain Spanish because that's where she learned it and went to school and studied. And then another one of our teachers was from Colombia, and she taught Colombian Spanish. So even like listening to like other students speak in different dialects and also just with different tone and almost accents was pretty funny. But yeah, there's tons of different versions of every language. I mean, even look at English. Like we have many variations of English in locales in English that even are identified in like the virtual assistant world. Like we've got like Belgian English, which I didn't know was different until I had to support it. Singapore English, Australian English, Canadian English, Indian English, UK English, and then our very wonderful and simplified US English. So just some interesting stuff there. And one of the cool things you can do in Voicify is even like segment those by not just like language groups, but by locales, even if you support them. So if you wanted to give someone some Australian sass versus some American sass, you can segment your responses that way too. But we've got our Voicify app set up. We'll end up adding more stuff to this later, but let's go actually deploy this to some different places. So to do that, all I got to do is go to Settings, to Deployments. Look at this beautiful tab. So the app that we build in Voicify, we only have to build once. I'll give me Matt a hard time for this. Oh, it's not localized at all? Oh, in Matt's what, Australian, or he's I think he's Australian, right? What am I missing here? I haven't talked to Matt in so long. I miss seeing all you guys at MVP Summit. Yeah, so it's localized with the S. It's so funny. Localization. So anyway, for deployments from Voicify, we build the app once and we deploy the same thing everywhere. And the rest of the conversational bits that we have to build and worry about, we only have to do that once, including like custom intents and everything else. So to get an Alexa skill, we link our account, which we can either do by signing in with Amazon, or if we've already done it for another app, we can do that. How convenient. Find My Rep, which we built on a previous stream, is also here, and it was deployed to my personal. So I'll do that. And now I just say create new skill and link, and we have an Alexa skill. Google Action side, very similar. I'm going to link my Gmail account that I used, but I do have to actually go set up a Dialogflow agent first. But because Voicify supports Dialogflow, we also get the benefit of all of the other channels that Dialogflow supports, because we support all of the functionality on our side. So for this case, I'm going to call it Suave Keys. So all we have to do is create an agent. We don't really need much else in it, as long as you have create a new Google project, or you can link it to an existing one. Your timeline stuff, we don't need a mega agent. And you have to have a credit card, I think you have to have a credit card associated with your Google Cloud account in order to actually create the Dialogflow agent now. But now we've got an agent, which means if we go back to good old Voicify, I'm going to refresh for good measure. We should see our lovely new agent down here, Suave Keys. And now we just say link. And now we've got a Dialogflow agent hooked up. So basically, Voicify is going to take care of like all of the NLU distribution to all of these other platforms. We'll end up doing Azure Bot Service and Bixby eventually too. So we don't really have to worry about like the nuances of Dialogflow training and stuff like that. If I switch over here now, oh, that's weird. Like, oh no, I'm in a different tab. Let me close this tab. In Suave Keys, if I refresh, we should eventually start to see all of our intents come over. Some other stuff I got to do here just to make sure everything's linked up. Just like handling the distribution automatically, we can also do stuff manually. So the Voicify Assistant API is open to people that have built apps on Voicify. You can just come in and send requests from those raw levels. So if you have like an existing Alexa skill, you can also just send your raw Alexa skill JSON over to this endpoint, and you're good to go. And it's also got Swagger, so if you care to actually browse all of the different goodness, I'll collapse all the Bixby unique endpoints because it's kind of a different beast. But like Azure Bot Service, you got these two different ones. Alexa, you got signed versus handled. Signed is like we actually do the certificate checks against HTTPS and all that, which is also wonderful that I don't have to worry about that, because like we got booted back so many times when trying to do the Warzone controller published to Alexa. Because I didn't do the certificate checking. I was like, ugh, I've already done this, but I don't want to just like refactor everything now when we're doing this. So that was also one thing I forgot to mention why I wanted to just put it on Voicify, because Voicify will do the signing check and make sure it's the right Alexa skill ID and all that for me. And I it's like the worst code I've had to write in terms of like being forced to do like certificate checks and stuff. Ugh. Anyway, just like the rest of those, you can also send API requests to these, and you can see like the different models that like Dialogflow sends and like the structure of it, and also the different response body that Voicify will send back down, just like you can for Alexa. So like this handled one, there's all the input. It's the Alexa JSON and the Alexa JSON out, Dialogflow JSON dialog out. Bot service works a little differently, where it actually posts the message to the bot service, so you technically can't really just like use this endpoint, but you can use the activity request, which is why we built another one anyway. So this will actually return the activity object, which then you can handle and send over if you've got your own Azure Bot Service stuff set up. And then there's Custom Assistant, where all you really got to worry about is some context about the user, and you can just literally send like the original text, and Voicify will take care of the rest of it. We'll end up using this when we build our Android and iOS apps for being able to handle voice commands as if they're their own smart speaker. No wake word, no invocation name, just commands. Which was really cool to build on top of Smokestack stuff. But carrying on, we've got to actually copy that URL for Dialogflow, which I can't remember if I copied, so I'm going to copy it. And then the last thing we need to do over here is for fulfillment on our agent. So we're in our Suave Keys Dialogflow agent. Is just add this webhook URL. The reason we have to do this manually, whereas like we don't for Amazon, is basically like we just don't have API access publicly for OAuth people to do this stuff. But we do have the ability to like set intents, so now you can see all of the Voicify intents are now here. More, next, general, question, dynamics, all of the cool stuff Voicify does. If we go to the Alexa developer console and refresh, we can see Suave Keys here, and like same deal, all of those intents are put together for us by Voicify. We don't have to really touch them anymore. Our invocation name is also set here for Suave Keys. So let's do some validation here. We're going to make sure our welcome message is working and everything's wired up right. It's just to make sure that things are okay before we carry on doing the rest of the stuff. So if we go to test, we can turn on testing for our development environment. Once we push this to production, we can basically test our production app, development app, or turn off testing. Some other cool things that happens here, when I turn that on, because I'm signed into this Amazon account, my personal one, all of my devices over here that are signed into the same account I can also test with. So we called it Suave Keys, so I can say open Suave Keys here in the simulator. Open. Welcome to Suave Keys. You can give commands. That's great. That's our welcome message. But you can unmute this beauty. Turn it up so you can actually hear it over the mic obnoxiously. Alexa, open Suave Keys.
Welcome to Suave Keys.
There we go.
You can give commands like press space bar or type hello word.
Stop.
See you later.
There's our exit message.
Come back and use your voice-powered keyboard again.
So our wire up's good on Alexa anyway, and now I can use the simulator to type stuff, or I can actually speak to my devices. I've got two over here. I've got a full Echo, an Echo Dot, and I've got way more upstairs. So we'll eventually test some screen stuff too, and I'll bring that down. I've got an Echo Show, which is really nice to use. But now that's wired up, so we can do the rest of this stuff. So I actually heard a typo there that I want to fix before I forget it. In our welcome message, I think I said hello. I didn't say hello world. I said something else. Hello word. Hello world. It's much better. Cool. So on the Dialogflow side, now that we've got everything set up, we can also hit our app from any of the channels or what they call integrations that Dialogflow supports. So the most predominant one when you first get here is Google Assistant. We can also build like web demos, Slack bots, Twitter bots, and we were doing some of this stuff before. You can build IVR systems and all that stuff too. But let's go build a Google action. So I'm just going to say test. And what this is going to do is going to let Dialogflow go actually generate the action for us. And then we just have to add the invocation name and start testing there too. And basically the same rule applies as to what I was just explaining on the Alexa side, where I turned on testing on my email, and so therefore everything over here worked too. Same thing's going to happen with Google, assuming I'm signed into the same accounts and I can never remember. So it defaults to my test app, but before we even test that, let's go to develop, and we can say this is Suave Keys. And that's it. Now we can test. So if we go to test and say talk to Suave Keys, make sure everything's wired up right, we should get our response back. Welcome to Suave Keys. You can give commands like press spacebar, type hello world, all that stuff. One thing I might want to do for these screen-based devices is also add an image here that'll show up. Let me do that real quick because I hate just seeing the plain text on it. So in our welcome message, I talked about this briefly before, but we can also add media to it. This is also where we can like change our display text, our display title, and even like customize our responses for each device type. So like if I wanted to use APL or Alexa presentation language, I could select like a specific device target and say like, oh, APL, and I could just like dump my giant JSON object here. But I can also use like pre-built ones like title screen and use to do custom readouts, custom output speech, like custom SSML, background images, display text. It all changes based off what template I choose. But what I want to do is upload an image here, and I'm just going to like put my, let's see, something in here for stream assets, my beautiful giant mug. We'll say Suave Pirate, that's me, and we can upload and attach it. So now that we have an image attached to this item, I can also choose how it's used. So I want to just use it as a foreground image, but I could also add like a background image and stuff like that too. And when I hit save, I can even like preview it, make sure it looks right. So there's our icon there. If I check it out on like the Google smart screen, you can see it in the top corner. Which now also, if I refresh on this side and say again, talk to Suave Keys, we should see that image show up as well. Oh wait, no, I didn't save. Hold on, I gotta save it. Refresh. Now talk to Suave Keys, and now we should see our image actually show up. Boom, foreground image. Looks just about right, like we saw in our preview. And even on the Alexa side now, I can refresh here again. If I close the skill IO and just say open Suave Keys. We'll see our foreground image here as well, just like we saw in the preview. So any screen-based device that supports images will provide the image there for the welcome message, and we can attach that to any other conversation item. Cool. So now we want the ability to let the user say type in whatever they want, and then we'll get into the press and the commands and stuff like that. So what I want to do, I debated this a number of times. I could either create a conversation item that can try to capture all those phrases in Voicify, or I can create a custom intent that lets us handle a custom slot or a search query slot or whatever, and then handle it that way. And I feel like I want to do that. So what I'm going to do is go to interaction model and intents, and I'm going to add a new intent. I'm going to call this the type intent, and we're going to say like type, and we're going to say phrase. That's what we'll call it. So we're going to add a new slot called phrase, and or maybe we're not. What? Phrase. There it is. And this is going to be search query. Search query actually lets us get the full text of what they said. All these other train types, they have fewer rules around where and how you can use them, but they're also limited in their functionality. Whereas search query will actually give you the raw text of what they said. So if I save this and build it, I'm going to do the same thing on Dialogflow, which we can leave this. Go to intents, create a new intent, call this the type intent, just like we did before. Give that the action name. We'll say type phrase. And I want this phrase to be any, which is sort of the similar, just whatever you want it to be. So if we save this, we can now create a conversation item in Voicify. I'm going to create a new folder. So we got our general response and stuff, which is cool, but this is going to be like commands. And now we're going to create a new conversation item that's our custom type, custom request. And we'll, come on. And we'll call this our type intent. And now this type in Voicify is a little different than like our welcome and exit. We actually get to control like the name of the intent or the type of request and stuff, or what platforms. But basically, anytime I get the type intent, this is what I want to have. And I'm going to return a response that says just typing. Eventually, what I might want to do is add like an audio cue here to be like, you typed, yay. We're good to go. And then we're going to add a suggest more content here that just says, what else? We can save that. So now, on the Alexa side, once this is done training, and on the Google side, if we go to integrations, settings, and manage, hopefully that'll work, we can say, talk to Suave Keys, and we can say type hello world, right? That's hello word. Almost did it again. Suave Keys isn't responding. What did it not like? Let's see. Here's our input. It might just not be done building or something. Oh, you know what it is? We didn't turn on webhooks on our custom intent. I feel like I do this every time because I'm so used to Voicify doing it for me for all these other ones. So if we go to type intent, we got to go down here to fulfillment and say enable webhooks. This is what's going to actually let it send the request to Voicify in the first place. If not, then you have to like enter your text responses in Dialogflow, and it's annoying. Let's see. Alexa's done building. So if I say, Alexa, open Suave Keys.
Welcome to Suave Keys. You can give commands like press space bar or type hello world.
Type hello world.
Typing.
We got our
What
typing
else?
response. Type how are you?
Sounds like you said something I can't handle yet.
Alexa, exit. Now let's check Google. Oh, I think we're still in one. Type hello world. We should get typing back. Typing, what else? Type how are you doing today? So one thing I sort of want to show here, when we're handling these different commands, what's getting sent up is we get the type intent and we get the parameters as well. I'm not sure why it's showing it as any when we gave it a name, but maybe we can give it a different name. And basically, we want to be able to actually take this phrase and do something with it. So this is what's going to matter more to our webhook and our custom code than it will to Voicify, which is fine. One thing I want to do is I want to give this a name to make sure it matches the one on Alexa, just to help us out later. So if we say phrase, if that's saved there, we'll close this one. If I say type how are you, collapse this. Hopefully we get it as phrase now. There we go. Type intent, type how are you. Why didn't it pick that up though? So like not. That's weird. It like knows that it knows the right intent. It knows it got phrase, but it didn't get the name. Maybe we need to resync from our integrations tab. Integrations. After the next draft submission changes made to blah, 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 blah. Instead, you can continue iterating, improve your action draft mode. Okay, I mean, I just want to know if I can type. It might just also be because I'm in the same session where I was using the old model. All right, let's do this. We'll go to test here. Ow. Say talk to Suave Keys. And we'll say type hello world again. Now let's make sure our input's right. So we got typing, we got the right intent. There we go. It must have just been because we trained it in the middle of this session. So we've got this phrase parameter. On the Alexa side, when we go over here, I can say open Suave Keys and say type hello world. And the input that's sent up is very similar to what we just saw in Google. If we scroll all the way down to intent, we got the name type intent, we got slots, phrase, name, value, hello world, right? So basically these values are what we need to pull out. Voicify should take care of a lot of that for me. To prove that, let's go set up a new webhook. So I'm going to create a webhook.site link. This is great for just seeing what's going to be up and down. If I copy that URL back over here, integrations, add, we're going to add a new custom webhook. You can see all the other official things that we have here, but for custom webhooks, I'm going to call this Suave Keys test, just testing input. There's our URL that webhook.site just gave us. We'll call this a content item response resolver, and token doesn't really matter, but we'll put some stuff in there anyway. So now that we have that webhook, we can actually go back to this type intent conversation item, go to integrations, add our Suave Keys test, and we're good to go. So now when I say type how are you doing, we should see that data actually sent up to webhook.site. So boom, we got our post request. This is what Voicify is sending. So like instead of using webhook.site, we'll eventually be using our own API. But just to sort of show what we get, we can look at our original request .slots, and we have this .phrase. So now if I go do the same thing on Google, type how are you, let me go over to webhook.site. Right, so we've got from this larger object, we've got original request .slots.phrase. This is Voicify's abstraction over it. So now if I go over here, it's the same. I mean, I can literally click between the two. And it doesn't matter that it came from Alexa or Google, although, you know, the rest of this stuff changes. We still have the same phrase, and this is what we really need to worry about, which is awesome. The Voicify abstraction helped us out a lot there, which is exactly why I wanted to use Voicify for this use case. I didn't want to have to write Google-specific code or Amazon-specific code or Bixby-specific code, because the same thing is going to work on any other platform we deploy to. We can deploy it to Cortana, to chatbots, wherever. Including if I go to Dialogflow here and go to like a web chatbot, like let's just turn on the web demo, boom, turn it on, go to this link, say type how are you doing via chat. We'll get typing what else back on our webhook.site, same thing, it's just the same slot value here, it's the same exact object, which means our webhook code only has to care about getting to original request slots phrase when we're passing that off. It's perfect. Okay, let's add another intent. I want to do the press. So typing is going to be great for full expressions. And now pressing a key, I still want to make it open. But we need a different command for it because I want it to function a little bit differently. Whoops. All right, back to Suave Keys on Alexa. We'll add it on Alexa and we'll add it to Dialogflow. We're going to say intent, say press key intent. I'm going to say press, and we'll create a new slot called key. We can create a couple other phrases here like tap key, hit key, smash key. We can always add these later as well. I'm going to also make this a search query. And that's good enough for me. Save and build. While it's building, we can go back here to Dialogflow, do the same thing. new intent, press key intent. I'm going to say press key, tap, key, smash, key, hit, key. And I'm just going to highlight these and say that it's another sys.any. This is the same thing. We're going to call this key. Is that what we called it before on the Alexa side? Yeah, key. All right, we want to name them the same for consistency's sake. We want to make this a key and this the key. Cool. Save. We also need to turn on webhooks. All right. While those are all building, Alexa and Dialogflow, let's go add another conversation item for it. I'm gonna create a new one. Another custom request. Press key intent. Request name. Pressing key. That'll be our response. We use another suggest more content. That way we can just keep saying it and say what else. Save and activate. Now for this press key intent, we can also go add that same webhook for the test. If we say update, assuming things have built, Alexa's still building, this is still building. I think we need to resync. I'm just going to do it to be safe here. Hopefully that resyncs thing. I don't even know if it does, honestly. I don't know if this is just not even doing anything. But if we say talk to Suave Keys, and we say hit F, pressing key, and we can see that on the webhook side we got our request, we got key F, which is perfect. We can say Alexa, open Suave Keys.
Welcome to Suave Keys.
Alexa,
You can give
press F.
pressing key.
There we go.
What
We got
else?
F capital. Exit. So, interesting.
Sounds like you said something I
Alexa.
can't handle yet.
Exit. There we go. So when we set a single letter on Alexa, we got the capital one. I don't know if that's going to be true on Google, but that does basically tell us, hey, if we're going to handle this, we need to basically be case insensitive. But same deal, like between Alexa and Google, like just clicking between these two requests, this is the same, which is perfect structure-wise. So now we basically just need to only care about two different intents on our API side. We don't need to care what platform it came from. As long as it is hitting the right conversation item and we have this key slot, like we're good to go. So it's exciting. All right, I'm gonna be right back. I need to get more water, and then we'll actually start setting up our webhook environment. We'll start getting into the .NET stuff and start getting this deployed. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. Okay, Chad, I'm back. What did I just say we were gonna do? We did the slot thingy and we got it set up in Voicify. Look at our checklist. Bada bing, bada boom. These are done. And I'm also trying to figure out why I can't use emojis in here. Oh, there we go. I was gonna say, like, I'm pretty sure I've done checkboxes in Notepad before. Alright, validate conversational aspects. We did it. Everything works. We just tested everything. We got our two main intents, and we got some custom stuff. Some of the things we can do here too, like if we want to actually get more out of the Voicify side, is we could also add like some conversation items to let people ask like how it works or like what other commands to do or how do I sign up, and then eventually we'll get into the account linking too, which will just be like a whole another set of conversation stuff to get you set up, which luckily mostly is handled by the Voicify tooling already. Like if we go to integrations here, like we can set up our OAuth stuff that gets us pretty far, but we'll probably want to do some custom stuff too. But to continue this sort of validation stuff, we're going to be building a webhook for a single user. So we're not going to set up our end user stuff yet. We're not going to set up our account linking and sign in yet. But let's just make sure we get a request. We can handle the two different intents that we care about and do something from there. So to do that, what I like to do is create a new GitHub repository like we've done in every new project on this channel. So over on GitHub, and this is an old link, there we go, GitHub. We're going to create a new repository, and we're going to call this Suave Keys. S is available. What? Yeah, I haven't made a repository called S yet. Description. Product that allows users to use virtual assistants and custom apps to give commands and type on their keyboard using their voice. It's gonna be public. I'm gonna give it a git ignore. I'm gonna start with the Visual Studio one because we're gonna be doing mostly .NET. We'll eventually do Kotlin, Swift, and Arduino as well in this repository, but this usually covers a lot of it anyway. I'll MIT license it. Have at it, everyone. Build what you want. Hopefully it'll at least help someone play games more easily. So that's like my real goal. Okay, code. I haven't actually tried some of this other stuff. We're going to open with Visual Studio. We're going to clone it locally here, and then we'll create a new solution, a new project for it in Visual Studio. So sorry, my computer fan's like pointing right into my microphone. It's super annoying. There we go. How's that? A little better? Cleaner? Less fan in the microphone? I hope so. Seems like there's still some like bass noise here, even when I'm not talking. Did it open Visual Studio for me yet? Just didn't even bother. What is this? Try again. Bueller, forget it. Alright, whatever. I'll clone it. I want to do it with the UI just for people watching this who don't know the Git CLI. Let's see if we can open with GitHub Desktop. I'm fine using that too. It'll probably be easier as we start to add more platforms and languages. Project Suave Keys, clone, please. Yay. Alright. We can close these extra Visual Studios down, and let's create a new solution. So, looking back at our diagram, there's a few things here that we're going to be able to do in .NET. Basically, this API is going to be in .NET. This desktop client and mobile clients, these are also going to be probably, I mean, I know at least UWP is, but I'll probably do it in Xamarin for Mac as well. But for mobile clients, I'm not sure if I want to use Xamarin yet because I want to use Smokestack for it, and I haven't done Xamarin bindings, but either way, that's fine. And then the controller is going to be in Arduino, so that doesn't really matter. So I want to be able to abstract it, at least between these two, like a UWP client and Windows client, to like share models and stuff like that too. They don't really need to share services. I also want to be able to add unit tests and integration tests because I do want to actually make this a real product. And so we're going to make sure that we can actually support it the way that I like to support products. No regressions, fewest bugs possible. Get some test coverage up in this, and go from there. So we're going to create a new blank solution because we're going to have multiple projects in here. And we'll call this Suave Keys. And we need to actually go grab the spot that we were just in. Project, Suave Keys, new folder called Source. And that's will be where we put it. All right. We got some like screen bleeding going on here. I think my monitor's on the way out. I can like see my Chrome bar behind Visual Studio, and I can't see it from your guys' side, so it's definitely my monitor. Super cool, super cool. Anyway, moving on and not being sad. New project. I'm gonna create a .NET Standard library for our shared models. I don't know how much else is gonna be shared right now between those, so we're gonna have like a core models. So we'll say .NET Standard. How many times I've looked that up? Class library .NET Standard. Call Suave Keys core models. That you deserve to monitor. Kenzie, are you still in the chat? You heard Dan. Okay. We'll leave this empty. And we're going to go create a new project. Gets hit with a posture check. That's fair. Okay. Anyway, we're going to do ASP.NET Core Web App. We're going to call this Suave Keys API. And we got an API project. Good enough for me. I'm going to delete all this boilerplate garbage. Weather forecast what? Get out of here. This doesn't add anything else. Alright, cool. We're good. Alright, next one. Another new project. So we're going to have a blank UWP app. Call it suavekeys.clients.uwp. Or just .windows, I guess. Sure. I want to know, anyone who's done UWP for Xbox, do all of the UWP APIs work on Xbox? Like, do the serial commands work? Can I send serial commands via Xbox? Can I just plug in this Arduino and have it work? 'Cause that'd be sick. I don't know. I never tried it. Maybe we will. I got an Xbox, like OG Xbox One, like first gen of Xbox One that we can try it with. But whatever. Okay. We got API, we got client, we got shared models. I don't know if I need to commit to any of these other projects yet. Because, again, I don't know if I'm going to use Xamarin for the mobile client because I want to use Smokestack. I don't know if I want to have to do the stupid binding libraries for it because it has a lot of dependency libraries and all that stuff, but whatever. No, undeserving a new monitor. Yeah, I know. There's no chance. Okay. So, let's make a new controller. Oh, no, I'm not going to use the scaffolding. That's gross. It always takes forever. New class. Call this our Voicify controller. So this is going to be our endpoints that Voicify is going to actually send stuff to. So we'll say controller base, controller base. And we got a route of, got an Xbox. When I went to build, before I started my company, my boss told me at the time whatever I got at the conference was all mine. So I came back and oh no, that's the worst. ARPI API / controller name. Yeah, I don't know if I'd be able to stand for that. Okay, let's see. I want to abstract the logic here a little bit, but still be able to test and unit test and all that stuff. So all right, fine. We're gonna onion-ish architecture or clean-ish architecture this. We're gonna have core. I'm gonna actually like 01. Oh no. I want these named in order. Whenever I do these like solution folders and stuff, I always name them numerically so they always show up in order. I'm not sure if there's another way to do that, but O2 infrastructure, O3 clients, and we'll have our nice O4 tests. So we're going to move the API into clients, core to core, Windows client's going to be there, and then for infra, we're going to have a new project, .NET Standard. This is going to be Suave Keys infrastructure data. We're going to have a data logic layer in project. We're going to have another one in .NET Standard class library for business logic. And I'm also going to want core data and core, oh, not that, don't know, want a core app. Core data, core business. So the way I like to set these up is that I have my core layer, which is only interfaces and only models. And it's somewhat within the Onion architecture. It's a little bit different because I don't like the application layer. I kind of like to just consider business logic and data logic's implementations at the infrastructure layer. But either way, like I like to separate business logic from data logic from client logic, and in this case, the API is also considered a client. Delete all these stupid starter classes. So essentially what this means is that each one of these core projects, right? So we've got core business, core data, core models. Models are strictly data structure stuff. So like entities, DTOs, enums, maybe some extensions. Core data is like our iRepositories. Core business is like our services, our providers, our mappers, all of the business logic that makes it up. Only at the interface level. Infrastructure is where it's actually implemented. So business logic, our services, our mappers, and stuff like that are going to be implemented in infrastructure business. In infrastructure data, we'll have implementations of our repositories, providers, stuff like that. And then the clients are going to only care about talking to core interfaces, and it'll all just be injected and magical and everything else, which also means that we can now very easily unit test all the way along by mocking up certain interfaces from the core level. We can also do integration testing with other mocks and stuff as well, and basically make sure we have coverage there, and can implement things when we need to. So that's the way I like to set it up. I'm going to be focusing mostly on the API right now, and then the Windows app will be pretty simple, but we'll probably also want some UI tests and some unit tests there as well. Test your code. Yeah, I don't just test in production, although so far on stream it's always been, let's just see if this works and if my guy jumps in Dark Souls or not. And I want this to be a little more real, so I'm going to add some actual integrity to it, if you will. So basically breaking down those things that I mentioned, those layers where we have core, infrastructure, and clients, and within that we've got the separation of business logic from data logic. Thinking about it in those sort of buckets, there's key things we need to basically think about implementing here. So for example, when we receive a request, that's going to run through our client. So we're going to have a controller here. We got our Voicify controller. This is going to take all of the requests from Voicify. We'll have two different endpoints, one for handling type intent, one for handling press intent. That's going to then talk to business logic. It's going to just pass whatever data is needed for that business logic to actually do what it needs to do. So we'll probably just pass like whatever the model is that's like the same as like this webhook site. So like we'll pass all this data to the service. The business logic is going to say, hey, because I know I need to do like the type stuff, I now know that I need to look through this model and use this key and then like go validate against the data layer for like checking to make sure it's the right user, and I need to now send it over a WebSocket connection. Like all that business logic and those sort of like procedural steps, those will be in the service layer, the business logic layer. The data layer is going to be there for data access. So when we actually start to query for user data, when we start to check for their preferences and their settings, their authentication to validate it's the right user, get them back and stuff like that, all going to go through like the any framework context and repositories will all be abstracted and nice. And that's basically all there is to it. And then models are just whatever models we need. So we got some like input models, some output models, all that stuff that we might want to pass around. And basically core models, all this core stuff should be able to be used or injected in anything. Like I don't care if it's the UWP app, even if it doesn't use it all, it should be able to ingest like an whatever repository or use the models. But the business logic really is semi-dependent on where it lives and what its rules are. That's the whole point of being logic and implementation. And then the API, all the API should care about is the basically like HTTP requests, routing, and the actual dependency injection for the clients itself. So anyway, now after over-explaining all this stuff, let's set up some models. So we need to create some models for the Voicify stuff that's sent up. All of this JSON, basically we want model representation. Now, behind the scenes at Voicify, we are working on some SDKs to automate a lot of this stuff. They're not out yet, and I don't want to like use test versions right now that are there or internal builds or anything. So I'm going to kind of bite the bullet and build models, but I'm going to focus mostly on what we actually need. So we'll have like this sort of top level Voicify request. We'll have the would-be response, could be nice to use, but we'll skip that for now. Then original request, then slots and request type, and then we should have like assistant and intent, I think, is a property at this level as well. Somewhere in here. Basically grab that. I don't really care about the Alexa specific stuff yet. We will have to care about that a little bit when we get into account linking and authenticating and all that, but for now it's fine. So let's do this. Let's make some models. I'm going to add a new folder here for transfer models. Transfer. Basically our DTOs, data transfer objects. And then we're going to have entities in here as well. Entities. So our transfer models, we're going to have another subfolder here for Voicify models. And I'll even have a different folder here for input and output. So basically what we need to send back or what we need to receive. So let's worry about the input stuff for now. I'm going to pin these so we can see them side by side. So input models is basically all this stuff. So we have our top level request. So we have a Voicify request. We have a, let's see, what else do we need? We need original request, which is within this. We'll say Voicify original request. Slots are going to be a dictionary, and it's probably all we really need here. So from Voicify original request, we've got string request type, although this could definitely be an enum. We got a dictionary of string to string for slots. And then we are also going to want session attributes, which is another dictionary of string to object for session attributes. And then basically like all the rest of this stuff I don't particularly need right now. Let's see, what do we have with an original request that we need? Session attributes, assistant, you can take that. Prop string assistant. We'll even keep track of like session ID, user ID, application ID, which we can then use to validate that it's coming from our app and not someone else's. And then we have like some device capability stuff, and then we have native requests, and this is like the actual JSON structure that's sent to us from the underlying assistant. So like on an Alexa side, this is the actual JSON coming from Alexa. For Google, it's the JSON that's actually sent to us from Dialogflow, and stuff like that too, which when we end up needing to do some of that, we can start worrying about implementing those. But for now, I really want to just focus on what we need to actually prove this next step, which is, hey, we can get this and we can do something with it. So on the Voicify request side now, this is our top level object. We're going to have a prop original request called original request. And what else do we need from the top level? We can get ID, prop string ID string request names prop string title. We've got the application ID here too, so we'll say string application ID. Give treats to my pets. I do have a dog here. Use your 600 pirate points or doubloons. I don't remember what I ended up calling them. Benny. Bentley. Bentley, you want a treat? Ooh. Want a treat? He's not interested in your treat. You'll have to use your 600 points elsewhere. Okay. We got all this stuff covered. I want a refund. Keep typing in chat, you'll get your refund. Steals your chair. Like, does he sit in the chair? He or she sit in the chair? I feel like it would be funny. I wouldn't use my be right back thing then. I would just actually let my dog sit here and stream. If I could teach him how to code, it'd be even better. That's so adorable. Yeah, my dog is currently just sleeping next to me. I can use the camera panned a little bit here. And he's very picky about what treats he gets. So he's just kind of chilling there. Not really doing much of anything. Probably just stressed about the thunder that's going on. Only the highest quality. I mean, I'm trying to give him these Buckley peanut butter flavored trainer treats and he doesn't seem to care. Today, although he does like them sometimes. Okay, we've got our Voicify controller here. So now what I'm going to do in the short term to just sort of validate as we go, wrap it in bacon. See, the problem is, Dan, we only eat vegetables in this house, so we don't have bacon lying around. We do have some like meaty dog treats, but they're upstairs, and the 600 points isn't worth the trip. All right, we've got an HTTP post endpoint we want. We're going to say type intent. And we've got a public, and we're just going to return... Oh, no, we don't have anything yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. We need to actually represent the response. Output, new class, Voicify response. Cool thing is for this, there's a lot of stuff you can do with the Voicify response. And we don't really need to worry too much about it right now. But basically, like, we can do things like set custom session attributes and like manage them from there, like going forward, and check them again when they come back. We can add images to responses and all that. But like at the very least, we can return. I mean, we can also return nothing, and it doesn't matter. Voicify will just carry on with your app's conversation anyway. Like what happens with webhooks site. Like webhook site didn't return anything, but it still gave us the response. But we have the chance to override it. So when we create these webhooks, every webhook has the ability to basically like affect or override everything from this device response down. So like instead of saying pressing key, we could say, oh, you pressed, and like pass that slot back to, which is what I'm going to do. We can override media. We can completely change this to something different. We can even change the follow-up, like the scope of it. We can add on-screen hints, and we can also like just completely skip all that and like return an Alexa response, which is cool. But for now, I only want to just basically like affect this field. So all I have to worry about is this content field, and we have it within this separate data property. So we've got Voicify response data, called data, I think anyway. That's what we need to call it. Let's full screen this back up. So in our controller now, we can have a public Voicify response. We need to pull in a reference to our project there. And then we'll call this an HTTP post for press key intent. Press key. And this is going to take in from body a Voicify request. I'll call this request. So what we can do is return a new response where the data is a new one of those, and the content is pressing, and we can say request dot original dot slots at key. Key is going to be lowercase. Oops. Boom. Replace method. Oh, what is all this Visual Studio just blowing up on me? Oh my god. Alright, what is it? Oh, equals. Duh. Okay. So we're going to basically shortcut it and just return these things. Cool? Cool. What I'm going to do now is create an Azure or Azure App Service for it. I'm just going to do it from Visual Studio. You can either go and do it from there, from the Azure portal and set it up. You can do it from some actual CI/CD. But what I'm going to do is make a new hosting plan called Suave Keys plan, and it's going to be free for now. We're going to call this Suave Keys Dev because I want a test version, and we don't need insights. That's fine. Okay. So we're going to create our new test version, and then I'm going to also deploy it to like a production version just to stage it, although we're not going to really use that yet, so that we will have Suave Keys -dev and Suave Keys. Basically, you can go create your app service in Azure or through many other places and then actually set up CI and CD, which we'll do. We'll set up some like GitHub actions to do deployments based off of like some Gitflow stuff eventually, but for now, while we're basically proving all this stuff out, I'm going to just shamelessly right-click deploy. So now I need to do another one. How do I do another one? Another one. New. Another create new app service. This one is just going to be Suave Keys. This is our production one. Same resource group for Suave streams. For now, we'll use the same plan that we just did. So we got Suave Keys plan. And this one I do want application insights in East US, please. And go. And hopefully no one watching just made a Suave Keys app service before I could, because I'll be pretty pissed. Now, while we're testing, we're only going to be deploying to Suave Keys Dev. Eventually, suavekeys.azurewebsites.net will be the production API, and we'll have a more rigid set of rules around what actually gets deployed there. But for now, if we go to suavekeysdev.azurewebsites.net, we should see our service is set up with nothing here. And now we need to actually publish it. But we own it. It belongs to us. So I can publish this now. So what we can do to start actually testing some of this stuff out is create a new webhook instead of our test one for our actual press key intent, which I think is the one we set up. So I'm going to keep this URL. Right, that's what we did. If we go to Voicify control, it'll be suavekeys-dev.azurewebsites.net/API/Voicify/press-key-intent. So let's go back to Voicify and make a new webhook. So we'll go to integrations, add a new custom webhook integration, and we'll say Suave Keys press key intent presses a key. Alright, so we got /API/Voicify/press key intent, and that is going to be a content item response resolver, and we can end up doing this token authorization later. What we can do is basically like add a token to our API that we also add here, and we can validate against it before we let a request go through. That way we can make sure no one else is hitting it. But for now, it's fine. I don't really care. So cool. We got our webhook. Back to Suave Keys. Back to press key. Over to integrations. We'll remove the test one, and we'll add our press key intent. Cool. So now what I should be able to do is, if I say in Google, let's see, what did I say? Press or hit F, right? I should get a response override. I looked for hit. Oh, we're outside of our app. I looked for hit F, but it either isn't available or can't be played. Hit F. And now instead of just saying pressing key, we actually get that pressing F, right? So we get the actual response of what we sent up. So if I say press space, we'll get pressing space. And that's because our API is returning that response and saying pressing in the actual slot that was sent up from the intent from the user in the first place. So we basically just validated everything's coming up right. We can go do the same thing on Alexa. Open Suave Keys.
Welcome to Suave Keys.
Alexa,
You
press Q.
pressing Q.
There you go.
What else?
Exit. Right. So we're pressing things. We're getting the response back. If I say in like the chatbot environment as well, or if I go to like this Dialogflow chat and I say like press R, it'll say pressing R. Wow, how exciting. So basically what we need to do now is actually handle logic that's going to actually output all this goodness, and go from there. So let's see, we want to set up our typing intent as well, so we're going to do that. We're going to say type intent, but instead of getting the key slot, we get the phrase slot. This is going to be type. We get everything right there. So if I publish this again to dev, we'll go add another webhook on Voicify. Where'd I go? Kicked me into a new tab. Integrations. I want to take my other one and just copy it and swap it. Boom, that. I want that URL. New webhook. Suave Keys. Type. Types what you say. Type intent. Did we change the route properly? I feel like I can't. Yeah, alright, we got type intent. Cool. Type response resolver. Token again we'll worry about later. But now that we have the webhook created, go back to Suave Keys, back to our type intent, back to integrations, remove the test, and we get our type. So now instead of saying pressing, we should say typing, but whatever. Let's do this. Actually, we'll change it. Typing that. Publish one more time for good measure. Now, cool thing is, like, we haven't had to touch anything on the Alexa or Dialogflow side. It's just basically all handled for us by both Voicify and our custom stuff. But now I should be able to say, Alexa, open Suave Keys. Alexa. Alexa. Uh-oh. Alexa. Hello? Uh-oh. Did I just like lose power or something? Did this like become unplugged? What happened? Alexa, no. Oh, it's plugged in. It's just not listening to me. Alexa, open Suave Keys.
Welcome to Suave Keys. You can give commands like press space bar or type hello world.
Type, how are you doing on this fine evening?
Typing how are you doing on this fine evening? What else?
Shout out Kenzie Whalen. Just shout out yourself, Kenzie. Shout out you, okay? Loving wife, most active person in chat, just really having way too many of these channel points to use. So, shout out you, I guess. Of it. Anyway, I'm not sure if you heard that, but Alexa typed what we did, so that was cool. Now we can also do what's called a one-shot invocation, which I think is going to be the most popular way, or most common way, or what I will probably recommend is the best way to interact with this. Where instead of having to say open, wait for it to talk, and then saying like type whatever, we should be able to do what's called a one-shot and basically say like, tell Suave Keys to type X, and I want to make sure that works. Alexa, tell Suave Keys to type how are you doing?
Typing how are you doing? What else?
Type what is up.
Typing what is up. What else?
Type hey chat. You guys got rejected. Cool. Alexa, tell Suave Keys to type hey chat.
Typing hey chat. What else?
Type, can we get some F's in the chat?
Sounds like you said something I can't handle yet. Try giving a keyboard command like type hello world or press F.
Exit. All right, we've got a request to ask Alexa a question. Alexa, why don't you like chat?
Sorry, I don't know that.
Just blind hate is what I'm learning here. Sorry, Bazia. Alexa just blindly hates you. Why do you think I'm single? Poor damn liar. She knows. Okay. We've got our stuff set up. We are getting our requests. Everything is looking up. So, let's actually do some stuff here. We can start to separate some of our business logic out. We can set up our... actually, let's do this. Well, we got to go back to the checklist. Make sure we're not getting ahead of ourselves. We built our webhook. Damn, now we actually do have to like handle the API and authentication and stuff like that. So there's so many ways to do this, but basically the authentication needs to work in a few different ways. I'm actually going to set up a new diagram and talk through this, mostly for myself, but hopefully also for you all. We'll do another software. Nope, that's lame. Where's our cloud one? Cloud! Give me another Azure one. Right, so we'll just delete. Oh, come on. Ooh, we can copy all that stuff. I don't want to do that. All right, fine. Oh my gosh, I'm all over the place. Full screen this. Now, what I want to do is just talk about how the authentication works, because users and auth, because it's a little different than like normal user access in some ways, and it's basically just like a ton of user access at scale. So we've got user A, user. We gotta make that text white or put it on the backgrounds to this. I'm gonna put all this on the background. Can I move forward to the front? Let's get our nice little stage here set up, separate from our little blueprint thing. So we got a user A, and user A wants to use Suave Keys. They want to be able to give commands and have it only work on their keyboard or keyboards or controllers that they plug into their computers or the apps that they download. They don't want to use it to change someone else's stuff. They just want to be able to do their own thing. So user A needs to authenticate. The whole system needs to know who user A is along that entire path. So there's a couple different places where user A needs to sign in. If we look back here, each one of these endpoints, user A is in charge of between this OS and the clients, right? So user has to plug in here and physically plug in controller, and user is the one actually using these channels, right? So it's not just like a single API endpoint. We need to make sure it's the same user on both sides of this sort of diagram here. So to do that, they need to be able to sign into multiple places, which means that we need our where is it? Where is it? Give me app service. We need our API and things to web service. Fine, we'll do this one. So we need our authentication API, and extra special, it needs to be OAuth 2.0 spec. Either implicit grant flow or auth code grant flow is fine. So we need our API, and we need our database just like we had before. And our database is going to actually store their data and only access their data because they're logged in. Databases, we got our Postgres database. Big Postgres database. DB/user storage. Alright, so this is where we actually keep all that user's information, and only the API can talk to that. Can I do the thing here? Let me do the thing. Boom. Right? Only the API can talk to it. And we need our desktop app, or our clients in general. I'm just going to say clients. Clients, you can say desktop and mobile. We'll make it bigger. Boom, clients. And we need our AI channels. So let's just say convo/voice channels. So these are the two that the user is going to authenticate against. Go from the hand to this one, and from the feet to this one. And then these need to actually communicate that auth information over to the API and back down. So far we have the API set up for handling requests just from voice channels to our API in general and back, but not authenticated. So in order to authenticate, we need to set up user storage in general. So we need to be able to store their email and their password that's hashed, and any other details we need to know about the user. And we need to give them an actual interface to sign in the UI and in the voice channels. So the voice channels go through a process called account linking. So for example, I'll pull up like Alexa account linking. And essentially what it is you as the developer say at this point in the conversation, force them to sign in and go through account linking. And what that does is it pops up a card on their app. So like the Alexa app or the Google Assistant or Google Home app that says, hey, you need to sign in. And then it'll present them with the ability to sign in via OAuth, so which means we need an actual web interface for signing into their account as well. Which means, if we go back to our diagram, we need this sort of like ancillary, let's do this, say web auth client, and from their left foot or from underneath them, that's how they talk to this one. That's just bad. Okay. And then this one talks to this. So the user has to sign in via the web channel, which is actually going to be basically talking back and forth from the voice channel. So we go to the voice channel, we go to the API. API says, hey, you need to sign in. Voice channel goes and says, hey, let's start doing the OAuth stuff, and they present the web channel to the user. User signs in via the web channel, and all of their token information is then stored in subsequent requests coming from the voice channel, which means that every other request that we get, we'll get an access token that we can then use to check against the user that we have in our database, and then therefore only send information to their actual specific desktop client and all that good stuff. So it's a little interesting. It's not just like a normal sort of login page and we store your email and your password hashed and you're good to go. We need to actually like build it. We need to build an OAuth 2.0 provider for Suave Keys that lets someone sign in and then lets them also sign in from all of these other platforms. So from the mobile app, from the desktop app, from the web app, and therefore the voice channels, and then basically link everything together. Because once we know who they are, in this architecture diagram, when we get the request to our API, once they're authenticated, that's when the WebSocket stuff is actually useful, because we can send a specific WebSocket request to a specific desktop client or a specific mobile client, not just all of them, which is how we've been doing it so far. So it means like if Dan and Kenzie and I are all Suave Keys users and we're all signed in, when I say type hello world, I only want it to work on my machine. And the way that works is I say hello world, Alexa tells my API that I'm signed in as Alex. We validate that against the database, and then we say, hey, let's check what other clients Alex is signed into right now that are online. Let's send the requests over there. No one else has to think about it. And that's all there is to it. So let's start getting some of that stuff set up today. We've only got probably about like 30 minutes left of stream time here for what I'm going to put in. And the way we're going to do that is by setting up entity framework and identity, and we'll just use as much like basically the built-in ASP.NET Core identity stuff as we can, I guess. So the data access stuff is going to live in this infrastructure data, and we're going to have basically some abstractions at the interface level for core, which means that our service infrastructure only cares about the core data, and then our infrastructure data is the implementation. So let's start with the implementation and add contexts, and we're going to add another folder for repositories. So for context, we're going to add a new class here called Suave Keys Context, and I'm going to need to add entity framework to this. So if we go to manage NuGet packages, entity framework, core, and specifically Postgres, and I can never remember the actual packages. Boom. We need to match the version of ASP.NET Core we're using, which I'm going to do 3.01 for now because I don't have 3.1 of .NET Core installed yet. I know it's like the third stream I've said that, and I still haven't done it, but eventually we'll be able to upgrade all this stuff anyway. So I'm going to install it here. Not compatible with .NET Standard. Oh, I need to upgrade to 2.1. That's fine. Okay, let's do this. We can actually do that super easily. I can just edit this file, right? Where's my edit button? Edit. Boom. Big brain. Try again. Yeah. Now will you install? Cool, 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 cool. I also want to install it, the same package, same version in my API. I probably should have just done that at the solution level and save myself some time. Postgres 3.01 install. Yeah. I accept your license. Cool. So this should have added, I think anyway, all the other entity framework dependencies. So if we call this public Suave Keys context, and we call this data context, right? Is that what it's called? DB context, DB context. Sweet. And I want that. I don't need that though. We got our DB context options. And I can never remember how to do identity, so we need to add that as well. ASP.NET Core identity. Is this it? I feel like I can never remember the entity framework stuff. Entity framework, please. Microsoft, ASP.NET Core, identity, entity framework core. So we can install it here, and we need to also install it again at the client level, the API level. Sweet, no 3.01. So we'll get the latest 3.0. This is fine. Install that here, and then we'll install it at the API as well. Yup. Can I just copy this name, please? I want. Give me your name. Boom. 303 again. Okay. Cool. So there's actually I haven't done identity in so long. It's gonna be a pain. Identity context. What is it? It's like identity DB context. That's the one. And you can optionally, I think, pass in your user model as long as it inherits from identity user. But that means that we need to pull in that core stuff. Yeah, we should do that. All right, we're gonna create a new entity. I'm gonna have users, entities, and actually we can probably just put them all in here. We're not gonna have too many tables. new entity, and we're going to call this Suave Keys user. And this needs to inherit from identity user. And I like to use strings. Oh, what is the NuGet package I can add that's not like the super dependent one? Because they broke out these packages now, so it's a little bit easier. Suave Keys user. And it's going to say, like, you can't do that. It doesn't inherit from identity user. ASP.NET Core identity user. All right, let's just see if I can do it. I don't like adding it to core models, but I kind of have to. Identity user. This does have a standard one, and it only needs cryptography, extensions, logging, and extensions options, which I think is fine for just needing the model. Let's make sure we have the same version, so 303 again. Hydrate. Have I not been hydrating enough? Alright. Now we should be able to bring in the namespace here. Or not. What? Hey Kenzie, thanks for the bits. Cheers. Extensions, stores. 303. Now can I pull in the namespace, please? Alright, cool. At least it doesn't have the core app requirement. Cool, so now that should be fine, which means this should be fine. Go away. No implicit reference to identity user. I thought they were cool with that. Alright, there's this one. There's this one. Oh, that's the one that lets you do the key. But then you have to have the role and the key. Okay. What if we do Suave Keys user for role needs to inherit from identity role, which means we need a new entity Suave Keys user role, which will inherit from identity role, and we have to provide the same key thing there. So this will be identity role string, which means here we can do that, and the key is string. Okay, everyone happy now? Easy. Cool. So we've got our database context set up. We'll eventually be able to just like inject it with some PostgreSQL goodness, and now we can actually add some more tables here, although we don't really need to for the authentication stuff. So before we get too far ahead, I think I'm probably going to pause here because I basically, like, the next stretch is like another 2 hours of work, and I don't want to leave it halfway. What I'm going to do is do an initial commit here. Oh, I need to do it from here though. Initial commit with project structure and sample Voicify hooks. And so on Sunday, hopefully this commits. Please commit. Why? Why? Let me commit. Commit failed. Oh, it committed over here though. Okay, what is... Okay, fine. Can I push it? No. I just can't even... Yeah. This is me. It's me. I own this repository. I am Suave Pirate. Alright, whatever. I'll put... Can I push it from here? Can I do that? I might just need to actually, like... Okay, fine. This seems to be working so far. Okay, whatever. We'll use Team Explorer. So... Sunday, we're going to carry on with the project. Like I said, I don't want to get too far into setting up the auth stuff because it's going to be a few more hours of work to get it all working. I'd rather do that in like 1 or 2 streams and like kind of have it actually broken up a bit. But so far, we've built our app in Voicify. we've added our custom intents. We've deployed it to Alexa and Google. So we have an Alexa skill and a Google action that let us say press and type and give these custom commands. We've got our own code consuming that data regardless of what platform it comes from, so it just works right away. And the next step is to actually add authentication to make sure that it's coming from a specific user. So we need to set up our user storage on authentication using identity. We need to set up our auth grant flow and or implicit grant flow in the UI. So we'll build a web UI. Might just use like Razor Pages or something, whatever's built in. And then we'll get it set up with account linking into Alexa and Google through Voicify. And then we'll actually build the UWP client app where we also will sign in. That'll probably be a couple streams from now. And we'll go from there. But so far, pretty good work. So, we got our whole project structure set up. We still need to do some dependency stuff. And then we'll also be adding tests along the way, mostly to cover regressions. But before we even get into setting up account linking, we'll probably set up some unit tests. So, long story short, we've made some awesome progress today on Suave Keys. And Sunday, we're going to keep looking at user records and authentication. So Sunday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. That's when I stream. That's my schedule. 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Sunday. Come hang out. Come build more stuff. And we'll continue to build this into a real product that's scalable and awesome. And hopefully we can get in the hands of some people that need it more than just me getting better at video games. So thank you all for joining. Thanks for everyone in chat using your pirate points. And catch you all next time. So peace out.